The red emergency lights flashed across the command center as Diane Powell wiped sweat from her forehead. Outside, the protective shields flickered weakly. They wouldn't last another day. "Status report," she said, her voice steady despite the fear gripping her chest. Her second in command, Eric Johnson, looked up from his console with dark circles under his eyes. "Shield power at 14%. Food supplies will last another week if we ration. Medical bay is overflowing with wounded." Diane nodded and looked around at the tired faces of her crew. The mining colony on Proxima Centauri had been under attack for 3 months now. What had started as a simple mining operation for rare minerals had turned into a nightmare when the Krell arrived. The Krell were known throughout the galaxy as merciless resource hunters. Tall, with gray skin and 4 arms, they took what they wanted and left nothing behind. No one knew much about them, except that they served a distant empire that always needed more materials. "And the distress signals?" Diane asked, already knowing the answer. Eric shook his head. "Nothing. We've been broadcasting on all frequencies for months. No one is coming." The weight of those words hung in the air. 243 colonists depended on her leadership, and she was running out of options. "They're afraid," said Maya Wilson, their communications officer. "The Galactic Council considers this region too remote for a rescue mission, and no one wants to face the Krell fleet." Diane walked to the large window overlooking the colony. The dome-shaped buildings of the settlement were still intact, but for how long? Beyond them stretched the rusty landscape of the planet, beautiful in its alien way. They had come here to build something new, something meaningful. Now they might die here. "The Krell commander sent another message," Maya said quietly. "They're giving us until tomorrow to surrender the mining rights and equipment. Then they'll attack with everything they have." "And if we surrender?" asked Eric. "They'll take what they want and leave us stranded without the resources to survive," Diane answered. "We've seen how they operate on other worlds." The room fell silent. Everyone knew what that meant. Diane straightened her back and made her decision. "Maya, prepare the emergency broadcast system. I want to send one final message. To the Galactic Council. They haven't responded to any. No, to everyone. Any ship, any planet, anyone who might be listening. Use all remaining power from the auxiliary generators if you have to." 10 minutes later, Diane stood before the transmitter. She took a deep breath and began to speak. "This is Colony Director Diane Powell of the Proxima Centauri mining settlement. Our position is under siege by a Krell battle fleet. We have 243 civilians, including 58 children. Our defenses will fail within 24 hours. We have been denied assistance by the Galactic Council due to our remote location and the military threat posed by the Krell forces." She paused, choosing her next words carefully. "I understand the risks involved in any rescue attempt. But I appeal to anyone receiving this message. We are people with families, with lives, with dreams. We came here to build something good. If there is anyone out there who still believes that the weak deserve protection from the strong, we need your help. Proxima Centauri colony out." Maya turned off the transmitter. Message sent on all frequencies, including some of the older ones no one uses anymore. "Now we prepare for the worst," Diane said. "Get everyone to the emergency shelters. Distribute weapons to anyone with combat training." As the crew hurried to follow her orders, a small beep came from the communications console. Maya froze, then rushed to check it. "Director, we're receiving a response." The room went still. After months of silence, someone had heard them. Maya's hands trembled as she put the message on the main speaker. A calm, confident voice filled the command center. "Proxima Centauri Colony, this is Commander Alan Garcia of Earth Naval Forces. Your message received. Hold position. Help is coming. ETA 18 hours. Eric looked at Diane with wide eyes. "Earth? Earth is responding. But they barely have any presence beyond their own system." Diane felt a mix of hope and confusion. They have no significant fleet. What could they possibly do against the Krell? Should we respond? Maya asked. Diane nodded slowly. Tell them we'll be waiting. And may whatever gods they believe in help them if they're serious, because they have no idea what they're flying into. Commander Alan Garcia stood on the bridge of the U.S. Defiant, reading the authorization papers for the third time. He couldn't quite believe what he was seeing. The orders were clear, but they broke at least 4 interstellar treaties that Earth had signed in the last decade. Sir, are we really going through with this? Lieutenant Kate Morrison asked from her tactical station. Her brown eyes were serious, focused on the star map showing their destination. Direct orders from Earth Command, Garcia replied, folding the papers. Proxima Centauri colony needs help. No one else is coming. Because no one else is crazy enough, muttered Chief Engineer Olivia Bennett as she entered the bridge. Her hands were stained with engine grease, and she smelled of ozone. The modifications to the quantum drive are complete. We can leave whenever you're ready. Garcia looked around at his small crew. The U.S. Defiant wasn't large. It had been classified as a research vessel to avoid raising alarm among the Galactic Council representatives. But what it carried made other spacefaring races nervous. Listen up, everyone, Garcia said. I need to be clear about what we're flying into. The Krell have a battle fleet at Proxima Centauri. They outgun us in every traditional measure of firepower. They have more ships, more soldiers, and more experience fighting in space. Dr. Frank Williams, the ship's xenobiologist, spoke up from his corner of the bridge. Then why send us at all? It sounds like suicide. Garcia smiled. Because Earth Command believes that what we lack in traditional strength, we make up for in other ways that the Krell and the rest of the galaxy haven't considered. He pressed a button on his console, and a hologram appeared in the center of the bridge. It showed the layout of the Defiant, including the large hold in the middle of the ship. While the galaxy was watching our official space program, we were developing something in secret, not a weapon. At least not in the traditional sense. The hologram zoomed in on the hold, revealing row after row of small pods. The Krell expect us to arrive with guns blazing. Instead, we're bringing them something they've never faced before. 300 human Marines trained in adaptive tactical warfare. Kate frowned. Sir, with all due respect, even the best Marines can't stand up to Krell battle armor and energy weapons. Alone, no, Garcia agreed. But humans have something the Krell and most advanced species lack. Unpredictability. The ability to adapt and improvise in ways their tactical computers can't anticipate. Frank leaned forward, suddenly interested. That's why the Galactic Council keeps such tight restrictions on human expansion. They're not worried about our technology. They're worried about how we think. Exactly, Garcia said. Most spacefaring races evolved beyond what they consider primitive warfare instincts. They rely on predictive algorithms and fixed protocols. But humans still retain that unpredictable edge, the ability to make choices that seem irrational but work in practice. Olivia crossed her arms. So we're breaking treaties because our most valuable asset is being human. That's right, Garcia said. Earth Command has been monitoring the Krell for years. They follow patterns. They expect their enemies to follow patterns too. When those patterns break, their entire command structure falls apart. He looked at the star map, where a small dot represented the colony's location. Prepare for quantum jump. Let's show the galaxy what happens when you corner humans. We don't just fight back, we change the rules of the game. As the crew took their positions, Garcia received a private message on his console. It was from Major Laura Reeves, commander of the Marine unit in the hold. My people are ready, her message read. Just get us there in one piece, and we'll handle the rest. Those colonists are coming home. Garcia sent back a simple acknowledgement, then gave the order to jump. The Defiant's engines hummed to life, building to a high-pitched whine. Stars blurred on the view screen as the ship tore a hole in space-time. In the colony on Proxima Centauri, Diane Powell checked her watch. 16 hours since the message from Earth. If this Commander Garcia was true to his word, they would arrive soon. She just hoped whatever help Earth was sending would be enough. The Krull commander had moved up his deadline. They now had less than 10 hours before the final assault began. The U.S. Defiant dropped out of quantum space at the edge of the Proxima Centauri system. The sudden transition from faster-than-light travel to normal space made the ship shudder. Stealth systems engaged, Lieutenant Kate Morrison reported. We're running silent. The Krull sensors shouldn't detect us at this distance. Commander Garcia nodded. On screen. Let's see what we're up against. The main view screen showed the Proxima Centauri star glowing red in the distance. Orbiting the nearby planet was a fleet of 10 Krull warships. Each was 3 times the size of the Defiant, with visible weapon ports along their hulls. That's a lot of firepower, Dr. Frank Williams said quietly. Scan the colony, Garcia ordered. What's their status? Kate worked her console for a moment. Colony shields at 7%. They won't survive more than a few hours of sustained attack. I'm detecting Krull ground forces moving into position around the perimeter. Garcia stood up from his command chair. It's time. Olivia, deploy the quantum comm network. Chief Engineer Olivia Bennett pressed a series of buttons on her console. Small satellites ejected from the Defiant, moving quickly into a formation around the ship. Network deployed. All units can now communicate instantly regardless of distance, she confirmed. This was Earth's first major advantage, technology that allowed human forces to coordinate perfectly without detectable signals. The Krull, like most advanced species, relied on standard communication channels that could be monitored or jammed. Major Reeves, are your people ready? Garcia asked through the ship's internal communication system. Major Laura Reeves' voice came through clearly. 300 Marines prepped and waiting in drop pods. Just say the word. Garcia pulled up a holographic map of the colony and the surrounding terrain. Here's the plan. We'll split into 5 teams. Alpha Team will create a diversion on the far side of the colony. Beta and Charlie teams will drop directly into these mountain ranges and establish sniper positions. Delta Team will infiltrate the colony through these maintenance tunnels to reinforce the colonists. Echo Team will remain mobile as our quick response force. Kate looked concerned. Sir, spreading our forces so thin against a superior enemy goes against all standard tactical doctrine. Exactly, Garcia smiled. The Krull rely on predictive algorithms based on thousands of years of warfare. Their computers expect us to concentrate our forces to maximize firepower. They won't expect us to scatter. In the ship's hold, Major Laura Reeves briefed her Marines. Men and women in combat gear checked their weapons one last time. Remember your training, Laura told them. The Krull expect us to fight like everyone else in the galaxy, with drones, energy weapons, and fixed formations. Instead, we fight like humans. Unpredictable, adaptive, creative. She pointed to the map of the colony. Their armor is strongest in the front, weakest at the joints. Their tactical systems can't track more than 6 targets per warrior. They expect attacks from certain angles and distances. Break those expectations. Change positions constantly. Use the terrain. Communicate using the hand signals we developed, not tech they can hack. One of the Marines, Sergeant Jeff Peterson, grinned. In other words, we're going to confuse the hell out of them. That's the idea, Laura replied. Humans evolved as persistence hunters. We're not the strongest or fastest, but we're the most stubborn and creative. The Krull have forgotten what it's like to face an enemy who refuses to follow the rules. On the bridge, Garcia gave the order. Launch all drop pods. Begin the operation. 300 small pods shot away from the Defiant, each containing a single Marine. They streaked toward the planet like meteors. On the surface, Diane Powell was in the colony's command center when the sensors lit up. Director Eric Johnson called out, multiple objects entering the atmosphere. They're too small to be ships. Diane rushed to the window just in time to see bright streaks cutting across the sky. The Earth forces, she whispered. They actually came. Outside the colony, the Krell commander, a tall figure in ornate battle armor, also observed the incoming pods. He turned to his lieutenant. Primitive drop technology. Predictable entry vectors. Target and destroy them all. The Krell ships fired, energy weapons lashing out at the incoming pods. But to their surprise, the pods suddenly changed direction, splitting into multiple trajectories that no calculation had predicted. The Krell commander stared in confusion as his carefully planned defense began to fall apart. What kind of force had Earth sent that could move so unpredictably? News of Earth's intervention spread quickly through the galaxy. On the massive space station that served as the headquarters of the Galactic Council, representatives from 27 spacefaring civilizations gathered in an emergency session. "This is outrageous," said the Vortal representative, his blue skin flushing purple with anger. "Earth signed the non-intervention treaty. They have no authority to engage the Krell." The Talaxian ambassador, an elderly female with silvery hair, leaned forward. "Perhaps we should ask why no one else responded to the colony's distress calls for 3 months. The humans are merely filling a void we created." "That is not the point," argued the Vortal. "Humans are dangerous. We restricted their expansion for a reason." The council chamber fell quiet as a new figure entered. Sam Newman, a human observer assigned to the Galactic Council, walked calmly to the center of the room. He wore the simple gray uniform of the Earth Diplomatic Corps. "Representatives," Sam began, "Earth acknowledges your concerns. But when 243 civilians face annihilation and this council does nothing, what choice did we have?" The Vortal representative stood up. "You had the choice to follow the rules like everyone else. Humans always think they know better, always act without considering consequences. Let me remind the Council of the Tarsus incident." Sam replied calmly. A murmur spread through the chamber. Everyone knew about Tarsus. 5 years ago, a Vortal science vessel encountered a Krell patrol. Sam continued. The Vortal followed protocol exactly as the treaties dictate. They surrendered immediately when outgunned. All 342 crew members were executed anyway. The Krell don't follow your rules. The Makari representative, a tall humanoid with metallic skin, spoke next. "Observer Newman, we understand your concern for the colonists. What troubles us is not that Earth sent help, but what kind of help they sent." On a large screen, images appeared from Proxima Centauri. They showed human Marines fighting in ways that disturbed many in the Council. Instead of deploying in standard formations with predictable tactics, the humans fought chaotically. They used the environment in ways no military manual would suggest. They set traps, created distractions, and fought with a creativity that seemed almost primitive to the watching aliens. "This," the Makari said, pointing to the screen, "is why we limited human expansion. Not your technology, but your minds. You still think like predators." Sam watched the footage with a hint of pride. "We prefer to think of it as adaptability." Back on Proxima Centauri, Major Laura Reeves crouched behind a rock formation. Enemy fire streaked overhead. She checked her tactical display. Alpha Team was successfully drawing Krell forces away from the colony's southern entrance. Beta Team's snipers had disabled 3 Krell walkers by targeting joint mechanisms no one else would have thought vulnerable. Her communicator beeped. "Major, this is Delta Leader. We've reached the colonists. Beginning evacuation to the secure zone." "Good work," Laura replied. "Hold position. Echo Team will reinforce you in 5 minutes." A Krell patrol approached her position. 4 alien warriors in heavy armor, moving in perfect formation, their weapons held at identical angles. Laura smiled. So predictable. She threw a small device that landed near the patrol. It wasn't a grenade. It was a simple light projector that cast human-shaped shadows in multiple directions. The Krell immediately fired at the shadows, revealing their positions. Laura signaled to her team. They attacked from an angle the Krell hadn't secured, taking down all 4 warriors in seconds. Inside the colony, Diane Powell helped Eric Johnson load children onto transport vehicles. Earth Marines provided cover fire from improvised defensive positions. "I still can't believe they came," Eric said, securing the last child. "I can't believe how they'd fight," Diane replied, watching a female Marine use mining equipment to create a trap for pursuing Krell. "It's like they're making it up as they go." A tall figure approached them. Sam Newman, the council observer who had arrived in a small diplomatic vessel. He had come officially to monitor the conflict, but his true purpose was becoming clear. "Director Powell," he said, nodding to Diane. "The council sent me to assess the situation." "And what will you tell them?" she asked. Sam looked at the human Marines fighting across the landscape. "The truth, that the galaxy's fear of humans is entirely justified." He paused. "And that we might all be better for it." Outside, the Krell commander watched in growing frustration as his forces fell into one human trap after another. He had studied warfare for 200 years. Nothing in his experience had prepared him for this. "Send in all reserves," he ordered. "Crush them with numbers. These humans cannot stand against our full might." He didn't notice the small team of Marines who had quietly positioned themselves behind his command post, waiting for exactly this moment when he would commit his reserves and leave his headquarters exposed. Diane Powell moved through the colony's main building, organizing the civilians into groups. The sound of battle echoed from outside the protective shields, which were now strengthened by Earth technology. "Everyone under 16 goes with Group A," she called out. "Medical patients with Group B. Everyone with mining or technical experience, Group C." Earth Marines stood guard at each doorway, their weapons ready. Unlike the Krell, who all carried identical weapons and wore matching armor, the human soldiers had modified their gear in unique ways. Some had painted symbols on their helmets. Others had added extra pouches or tools to their belts. Each looked slightly different, just as their tactics were all slightly different. A young Marine named Lisa Green approached Diane. "Director Powell, Major Reeves wants to speak with you. She has a plan, but she needs your help." Diane followed Lisa to a makeshift command post, where Major Laura Reeves stood studying a holographic map of the colony and surrounding area. 3 other Marine officers pointed to different locations, debating strategy. "No, if we move here, they'll expect it," one officer argued. "That's why we should do it," another countered. "They'll think it's a trap and avoid the area entirely." Laura looked up as Diane entered. "Director, we need your expertise. You've lived on this planet for 3 years. We need to know everything about this environment that isn't in the official records." Diane was surprised. "The official records are very detailed. The survey team spent months. The records show what scientists thought was important," Laura interrupted. "I need to know what you've noticed living here. The little things, weather patterns, terrain features, animal behaviors, anything unusual." Diane thought for a moment. "Well, there are the dust storms. They come from the western mountains every 14 days. The next one is due tomorrow. The surveys mention them, but they don't explain how the locals use them." "Use them?" Laura asked, suddenly interested. "The native insects bury themselves just before the storms. They leave small mounds that look just like regular dirt piles, but they're hollow underneath. The early colonists learned to build similar shelters. You can hide an entire person under what looks like a small hill of dust." Laura smiled slowly. "Perfect. What else?" "The underground water tables shift constantly. What's solid ground today could be soft mud tomorrow if you know where to dig." As they talked, a young colonist named Ryan Foster listened from the doorway. He was 12 years old, with dirt on his face and determination in his eyes. "I have maps," Ryan said suddenly. The adults turned to look at him. "Maps of what?" Laura asked. "The tunnels. The ones under the colony. The ones not in any official record." Ryan pulled a worn tablet from his pocket. "I explore. It's my hobby. I've been mapping them for 2 years. Laura and Diane exchanged glances. Diane nodded. Ryan knows this planet better than most of the adults. He's always wandering off, finding new places. Laura knelt to Ryan's level. May I see your maps? Ryan handed over his tablet. The screen showed an intricate network of natural tunnels extending far beyond the colony boundaries. Some passed directly under areas currently held by Krull forces. Ryan, this is incredible, Laura said, her tactical mind already seeing possibilities. These could change everything. Outside the colony, the Krull commander, Kaztak, arrived with reinforcements. His first attack had failed, but he was not concerned. The humans had caught him by surprise with their unusual tactics, but now he understood their pattern. Or rather, their lack of pattern. Their strength was unpredictability. All units, adjust tactical parameters, he ordered. Disable predictive algorithms. Switch to reactive combat mode only. His lieutenants looked shocked. Fighting without predictive support was considered primitive. The humans do not follow logical patterns, Kaztak explained. Therefore, logic cannot defeat them. We must become unpredictable ourselves. For the first time, the Krell were adapting their approach. Kaztak had studied human warfare since their appearance on the galactic stage. He understood what made them dangerous, and unlike his fellow Krell, he respected that danger. On the U.S. Defiant, Commander Garcia received Laura's updated plan. It's risky, he told her over the quantum comm. Using the tunnels could trap half your forces if the Krell detect your movement. That's why they won't expect it, Laura replied. And with the dust storm coming tomorrow, we have perfect cover for the operation. Garcia considered for a moment, then nodded. Approved. We'll provide support from orbit when possible. As night fell on Proxima Centauri, both sides prepared for the next phase of battle. The humans gathered their forces, using Ryan's tunnel maps to plan a series of strikes that would make no sense to conventional military thinking. The Krell adjusted their tactics, trying to think more like their human opponents. The true test of Earth's most destructive force was about to begin. The morning brought the dust storm just as Diane had predicted. Red and orange clouds rolled across the landscape, reducing visibility to near zero. Krull sensors struggled to penetrate the mineral-rich dust that swirled around their positions. Kaztak, the Krull commander, watched from his command post as his warriors took defensive positions. He had studied the storm patterns and knew the humans would use this cover. But how? The normal approach would be a frontal assault under cover of the storm, so he placed his strongest units facing the colony. Status report, he demanded from his lieutenant. All units in position. Our sensors are degraded by 30%, but still functional. No human movement detected. Kaztak felt uneasy. The humans had been too quiet since yesterday. His instincts told him something was wrong, but his tactical display showed nothing unusual. Deep below the surface, Major Laura Reeves led 50 Marines through the narrow tunnels that Ryan Foster had mapped. The air was stale and the passage tight, but they moved quickly and silently. Ryan himself led the way, his small frame navigating the turns with ease. The main Krull position should be directly above us now, Ryan whispered, pointing to his tablet map. Laura checked her own device and nodded. Everyone, prepare the mining charges. Remember, we're not trying to collapse the tunnels. We just want to soften the ground. The Marines placed special devices against the tunnel ceiling. These weren't standard military explosives. They were modified mining tools provided by the colonists, designed to loosen soil without causing major cave-ins. Charges set, Sergeant Jeff Peterson reported. Ready on your mark. Laura activated her quantum communicator. All teams report in. One by one, the other strike teams confirmed they were in position. Team Alpha was hiding in the dust mounds as Diane had suggested, virtually invisible to Krull sensors. Team Beta had modified colony farming equipment into makeshift weapons. Team Charlie had taken control of the colony's water pumping system. And aboard the U.S. Defiant, Chief Engineer Olivia Bennett had her finger hovering over a button that would change the battlefield in ways the Krell couldn't imagine. "Execute Operation Quicksand," Laura ordered. Beneath the Krell's main battle line, the charges detonated simultaneously. There was no dramatic explosion, just a deep rumbling as the ground became unstable. Krell warriors, heavy in their battle armor, suddenly found themselves sinking as the earth turned soft beneath them. At the same time, Team Charlie activated the water pumps, directing the underground water flow to the loosened soil. What had been solid ground minutes before became a muddy trap. Kaztak felt his command post shudder. His tactical display lit up with warning signals as dozens of his warriors reported losing mobility. Before he could issue new orders, his sensors detected movement all around his position. Human shapes rose from what had appeared to be simple dust mounds, attacking from directions his forces weren't facing. "They're behind us," his lieutenant shouted. "And on both flanks. Reposition. All units reposition," Kaztak ordered, but it was too late. His frontline units were stuck in mud up to their waists, unable to turn and fight. His rear guard was under attack from humans who seemed to appear from nowhere. Laura's team emerged from a tunnel opening right behind the Krull command post. She gave a hand signal, and her Marines spread out in a formation no military manual would recognize. Some ran in zigzag patterns. Others rolled or slid into position. Each moved differently, making it impossible for Krull targeting systems to establish firing solutions. In orbit, Commander Garcia watched the battle through the Defiance sensors. "Now, Olivia," he ordered. Chief Engineer Bennett pressed the button. The modified mining device she had installed on the Defiant fired, sending a focused sonic pulse into the atmosphere. The pulse agitated the dust particles in the storm, making them cling to Krull armor and sensors. On the ground, Krull warriors found their vision completely obscured as the dust coated their helmets. Their communication systems filled with static. Their perfect formation fell into chaos. Diane Powell watched from the colony's observation tower as the Krull line collapsed. Earth Marines moved through the battlefield like ghosts in the dust, appearing and disappearing, striking from unexpected angles. "They're not fighting a war," she said to Sam Newman, who stood beside her. "They're solving a puzzle." Sam nodded. "That's what makes humans different. To us, warfare isn't about following rules or traditions. It's about finding solutions no one else would think of." The trap was sprung. The Krull forces were in disarray, and Earth's most destructive force, human creativity, had turned the tide of battle. The dust storm began to clear as the day progressed. What it revealed was a battlefield transformed. Krull warriors stood trapped in hardening mud. Their vehicles lay disabled, some tipped onto their sides. Small groups of Earth Marines moved methodically through the field, securing prisoners and collecting weapons. Kaztak, the Krull commander, had been captured. He sat under guard, his ornate armor covered in dust and stripped of its power sources. His 4 arms were bound, but he maintained his dignity, back straight and head high. Major Laura Reeves approached him, removing her helmet. "Your forces are surrounded. Your ships in orbit have been disabled by our vessel. This battle is over." Kaztak studied her face. "You do not fight like warriors. You fight like humans," Laura finished for him. "We fight like humans." "Yes," Kaztak said slowly. "No species in the galaxy fights as you do. It is disturbing." At the colony's command center, Sam Newman prepared his report for the Galactic Council. He had witnessed everything, from the planning sessions to the final execution of the battle. The other council members would not like what he had to tell them. Commander Garcia arrived from the Defiant to meet with Diane Powell. They stood together, watching the cleanup efforts through the main window. 300 humans defeated over 2,000 Krull warriors, Diane said, shaking her head in wonder. "The galaxy will be talking about this for years." "That's what worries me," Garcia replied. "We've shown our hand now. The Council has seen what humans can do when pushed." Sam Newman joined them, his official recorder still capturing everything for his report. "The Council is already in emergency session. I've been sending updates throughout the battle." "And what have you told them?" Garcia asked. "The truth," Sam replied simply. "That humans possess something more dangerous than any weapon. Evolutionary psychology that makes them approach problems differently than any other species in the galaxy." He gestured toward the battlefield, where Marines were helping colonists repair damaged structures. Other species evolved beyond their aggressive instincts. They developed technology to replace physical strength. They created rules and patterns for everything, including warfare. "But humans kept those instincts," Diane said, understanding dawning on her face. "Yes," Sam confirmed. "You channeled them into creativity, adaptability, and an almost irrational willingness to protect others even at great cost to yourselves. No predictive algorithm can model human behavior because you constantly break patterns." Outside, Ryan Foster was showing a group of Marines another tunnel entrance he had discovered. The boy moved with confidence now, his knowledge valued by the adult warriors around him. In orbit, the U.S. Defiant maintained position, its quantum communication array keeping Earth Command updated on the situation. Chief Engineer Olivia Bennett worked to restore the Krull ship's basic life support systems while disabling their weapons. They would be needed to transport prisoners. Lieutenant Kate Morrison entered the colony's medical bay, where Dr. Frank Williams was treating both human and Krull wounded with equal care. "How are our casualties?" Kate asked. 17 Marines wounded, 2 critically. None dead," Frank replied. "The colonists lost 12 during the initial Krull attacks, before we arrived. As for the Krull," he glanced at the alien patients, "their pride suffered most. They can't understand how they were defeated by primitives." On the far side of the battlefield, Laura Reeves confronted Kaztak again. The Krull commander had requested to speak with her. "There is something I must understand," Kaztak said. "Your forces were outnumbered. Your technology is inferior. By all logical calculations, you should have lost." Laura smiled. "That's exactly why we won. You relied on logical calculations. What would you have done, facing such odds?" Kaztak asked. "If I were commanding your forces against humans," Laura considered for a moment, "I would have retreated immediately." "Why?" "Because the most dangerous moment is when humans believe they have nothing to lose." She looked across the battlefield at the colony, still standing despite all odds. "And the most destructive force we possess isn't our weapons or our tactics." "Then what is it?" Kaztak asked. "Our refusal to accept that some battles can't be won," Laura said simply. "When the galaxy says something is impossible, humans take it as a challenge." 3 weeks after the Battle of Proxima Centauri, the Galactic Council chamber was filled to capacity. Representatives from all member species had gathered to discuss the implications of what had happened. Earth had violated treaties, interfered in Krull territory, and demonstrated military capabilities that frightened many council members. Sam Newman stood alone in the center of the chamber, facing the accusations with calm resolve. "Observer Newman," began the Vortal representative, "your people have caused great concern among council members. The methods used at Proxima Centauri were disturbing. We saved 243 colonists that this council abandoned," Sam replied. "If that disturbs you, perhaps examine your own choices." The Makari representative leaned forward. "It is not the rescue that concerns us, but how it was accomplished. Your Marines did not fight like civilized beings. They fought like humans," Sam finished. "Yes, I've heard that a lot lately." A side door opened, and a tall Krull entered the chamber. Everyone fell silent. Kaztak, still bearing marks from the battle, walked slowly to stand beside Sam. "The Krull Empire wishes to address the council," Kaztak announced formally. The council leaders nodded, surprised by his appearance. "I led the forces that attacked Proxima Centauri," Kaztak began. "I commanded 2,000 warriors against 300 humans. I had superior weapons, superior armor, and superior ships." He paused. I was defeated completely. Murmurs spread through the chamber. For centuries, the Krell have conquered through superior force and predictable warfare. We attack, others surrender or die. Simple, efficient. Kaztak's 4 arms moved in a gesture of resignation. The humans did not follow this pattern. They refused to acknowledge our superiority. They fought in ways our tactical computers could not predict. This is precisely why humans must be contained. The Vortal representative interrupted. They are too unpredictable, too dangerous. No, Kaztak said firmly. That is not my conclusion. The Krell Empire has existed for 12,000 years because we adapt. We recognize strength. The humans have strength we have not seen before. The Krell Empire formally recognizes Earth's claim to protect Proxima Centauri colony and withdraws all territorial claims. The chamber erupted in shocked voices. Back on Proxima Centauri, the colony was bustling with activity. Repair work continued on damaged structures, but the mood was light. Children played in open areas that had been battlefields just weeks before. Many Earth Marines had stayed behind to help rebuild and provide security. Diane Powell and Commander Garcia walked along the colony's perimeter fence, which was now being converted into a welcome center for visitors. The council meeting should be finishing up about now, Garcia said, checking his communicator. I wonder what they'll decide about us. Whatever they decide, they can't ignore us anymore, Diane replied. Earth has proven itself. A group of Marines and colonists worked together nearby, installing new communication equipment. What had begun as a rescue mission was turning into something more permanent. Friendships had formed between the Marines and colonists. Some were even talking about staying. You know what surprised me most? Diane said after a while. Not that Earth sent help when no one else would, but how you fought. Everyone expected brute force, some overwhelming weapon. Instead you brought people, Garcia finished. Just people who think differently. As the sun began to set, casting an orange glow across the landscape, Ryan Foster approached them with a group of children, both from the colony and a few younger Marines. Director Powell, Commander, Ryan called out excitedly. We found another tunnel system. It leads to a cave with strange crystals that glow in the dark. Can we explore it tomorrow? Garcia laughed. Always exploring, aren't you? That curiosity is exactly what makes humans who we are. Diane nodded. That's the real story here, isn't it? Everyone thought Earth's most destructive force would be some terrible weapon. But it was curiosity, adaptability, and the unwillingness to give up. Later that evening, Diane and Garcia stood watching the unfamiliar stars come out over the colony. What happens now? Diane asked. The galaxy knows what humans can do. They'll be afraid. Then we'll have to show them there's nothing to fear, Garcia replied. Yes, humanity can be destructive when pushed. We can think in ways that seem chaotic to others. We can be unpredictable and stubborn. He looked out at the colony, where humans from Earth and humans from the stars work together to build something new. But our greatest talent isn't destruction, it's creation. We didn't come to conquer the stars. We came to be good neighbors. Garcia smiled. And everyone should know that good neighbors come running when you call for help.